I was reminded how complex some of these things that you speak of or hear about in regard to the spirit, how complex they can sound, and how delivering them can be so vastly different than a delivery about how to, fix an engine, or how to do something very tangible and material, like, I don't know, screwing in a light bulb. I mean, I can speak so confidently about things that we all know and everyone can relate to, but whenever we're speaking of something about the spirit, I'm trying to find the new language, trying to find what's been missing, because I see so many of the patterns that are being repeated by mankind are obviously missing something, because I don't see the progress in the patterns of life around us being elevated. And I see the technology being used to really kind of deny the spirit and deny some of the truths. But like I mentioned in the video that I made yesterday, there's a transparency, and our collective memory is forcing us to deal with some truths that we've never had to really deal with, or never been able to deal with as clearly as we can now. So I wanted to recap some of the points that I made recently. And originally in this work, I called it Finding Spirit in Life in the Now. And it explores themes of self-discovery, spiritual connection, and the contrast between material and spiritual needs. And I'm going to try to outline some of those. So first of all, I think it's important to understand the difference between our needs and desires, what you want versus what you really just need to get by. And I think it's important for everyone that is interested, and obviously if you're listening to this or watching this, you may fall into that category of someone that is seeking, trying to figure out what's going on in life, whether it's for yourself or for a loved one, or you're trying to rationalize, some pain that you're feeling over some trauma that you've encountered in life. So, I think it's important for individuals to discern between what they need and what they want. And I think that helps give you clarity as to what's going on in your life, in your body, and in your relationships. That's a great place to start. And I think that's where you'll really have a chance to find your true needs to achieve fulfillment. And then there's the concept of self-identity and perspective that I think is powerful to explore. A significant portion of what I've spoken about recently was dedicated to exploring self-identity and how individuals perceive themselves and how they perceive others. There's a lot of momentum from our childhood that's gathered from our community, from our parents, from maybe grandparents if you were exposed to a prior generation, as well as all of the teachers and coaches and the people that were of influence in your community. Now, some of us have the gift of being raised in multiple environments in our early childhood years. So that can give you a unique perspective that maybe is not as fixated in one perspective. And so you may naturally understand better what I'm talking about whenever I say, why don't you try to consider multiple perspectives? Because I think that's where empathy is born, and I think that's where you have a chance to relate better with your fellow man, because there's not just one avatar that represents all of mankind. I think we all have a lot of differences, and those are very fundamental to the core of who each one of us are. And I think as we evolve as human beings, there's a lot more peace and understanding and a feeling of enrichment and connectedness to the entire, process that we have going on in our lives today that is offered through that versus someone that's isolated and only hearing about all these differences, around the world, that leaves you feeling very, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle that you've never had a chance to put all the pieces out in front of you and have a chance to put them together. So these perspectives, examining perspectives and identities, helps you develop an understanding to piece together this hierarchy that does exist in the material world in particular. And it also gives you a perspective on how confidence and love enter into, your self-view and into these different perspectives. So there's also another aspect of what I've spoken of recently, really about letting go of the despair from the past. And, holding on to past despair can really hinder your spiritual growth. And gotta move this. So another topic that has become important and that I've spoken of recently is called letting go of past despair. And holding on to the past despair can hinder your spiritual growth. I'm a strong advocate for faith and the ability to let go of those past experiences to allow spiritual fulfillment. And then another aspect that I've spoken about recently is just the misconceptions about spirituality. I've tried to address common misconceptions about spirituality, noting that spiritual practices are often dismissed because they lack tangible, observable outcomes. And I'd like you to reevaluate your priorities and put spiritual needs above material concerns. Try it for a day, try it for a week or a month, and see what happens. And then note your spiritual versus your physical needs. Divide the two. And I've talked about the distinction between the spiritual and the physical needs and highlighted that while physical needs are increasingly met through technology, spiritual needs are going to continue to need more attention and more understanding. And then I talk about community and spiritual connection. I just have to emphasize the importance of community and helping others in times of need. And I've given examples of people coming together during crisis. And I've encouraged people to build a tribe of like-minded individuals. Those who are speaking spiritual connection, look for those people, grab onto them, connect with them, and try to find a way to relate and build some routine into your life that includes and honors that. And I'm a critic of the hierarchical structures around us. And, I just can't help but notice that our society is just built on this dominance and subservience. And these structures can enslave individuals and stand in the way of true freedom. And then I think we can all see, as you've probably heard me speak about several times, about the transparency and truth. And I think that there's more of a natural and organic appearance of these truths that are getting exposed from multiple perspectives. Whether it's, you've heard me speak of the gymnasts that are talking about the doctors that sexually molested them in their exams for their medical work in their, as they were training for to be gymnasts for the Olympics, for example, that, they felt like they couldn't expose some of these doctors that were taking advantage of their position of power. And of course, we've heard many examples of priests, and even in male athletics, football, Penn State, the cover-up of sexual molesting that went on for years at Penn State. Those things are all getting exposed. We're seeing celebrities like Bill Cosby and Charlie Rose, for example, that have abused their roles in their sport or in their profession to gain monetary or sexual favors. So we're seeing all that, and I'm kind of stumbling right now as to how to speak to that, because I think we're still figuring that out. But the fact is, those truths, as these people come forward, these behaviors are exposed, we're finding that some of the hierarchy is getting brought down to reality, and celebrities and heroes are becoming more and more real and common. And part of my point in that is to stop looking outward at celebrity and heroes and start looking inward as to who you are, to make the most of you, rather than kind of transferring the power to others. Look to yourself and start to really notice how powerful you are, and work on that. So I think our evolution does depend on recognizing and addressing these spiritual truths that have been overlooked in ourselves and in our community. So I'm constantly reflecting on a lot of the things that I'm speaking to, but I'm also looking back on some of the things that I've said in a long series of videos that I've posted on this channel. And I'm really seeing a commonality of encouraging you to seek spiritual fulfillment and spiritual connection. And it's the importance of understanding your true needs and the value that's in our common community support with each other. I'm Mark Roach. All the best.